Welcome to Final Approach with Chris Gregory. I am a philomath who is somebody who loves to learn things. One of the things that I've learned is that everyone has a tale to tell and a lesson to teach. From pilots to farriers to musicians to authors and creators, I'm going to explore my interests while introducing you to some amazing people. Pre-flight is complete and we have clearance, so let's kick the tires and start the fires. Mark Lyon is a renowned horseman, trainer, entertainer, creator, and clinician. I met Mark while shoeing horses at the school at Chad Kelly's farm, and we instantly hit it off. Mark has a great story to tell in an easy manner. You can find hours and hours of help with your horses on his YouTube channel, Lyonshare, spelled Lyon. Sit back and get to know Mark Lyon with me. We are cleared for takeoff. Everybody, I'm starting a podcast with Mark Lyons, who I don't know very well. I just got to meet him today. We were here at Chad Kelly's, and we pull in, and there's a semi with a very 6-horse, unusual, unique.
Eclectic.
All right. So, and Mark's a cowboy, and we got to visit him. So, Mr. Lyon, thank you for sitting with me, and tell me your story.
Good to meet you. Yeah, I grew up in Nebraska. I grew up in town, and every young boy wants to be a cowboy. And
so, like East, West, Omaha.
Yeah, Omaha. Between actually, it was just inside of Lincoln.
Okay, all right.
That's where I grew up, and we grew up in town. Never had a chance to really have horses, but I kind of always liked it. Kind of dressed cowboy with like boots, and just like kind of grew up watching the westerns. And
well, how old are you?
I'm 50 now.
50. Okay.
Yep, the big 50. When I was growing up, my mom would swear I was never going to make it to see another birthday because I was always trying to kill myself, as most young boys are. But
killing yourself with motorsports or
just doing climbing trees and trying to rappel off the back porch and how that kind of stuff goes. But yeah, I always liked the outdoors, just nature, and being a cowboy is kind of a fun deal. And didn't get to really go do the horse thing until I was about 16, 17. Met some buddies of mine that had horses, so I'd go out to their place and got to ride a little bit. And then as I got a little older, got a job, and I was a welder, construction, so doing about a bunch of pipe fitting and steam fitting. And so I got to.
So did you go to trade school or did
Yep.
you go? Okay.
Yep.
So you high school, then you went to welding school?
Yep. Actually, I was homeschooled. So.
Oh, really? So you would have graduated somewhere around 90, right?
Yep.
It used to be homeschool kids thought it'd be kind of weird. And then now.
Some of us are.
It's the opposite.
I liked it from my experience. I've known some homeschool kids that I was like, hey, probably should have gone to public school. But then I know some kids that, man, they were exceptional at what they were, and how they turned out. And I liked it. We kind of had the first few years, especially the first year Mom was homeschooling us, we went and bought some desks and had a little school room, had the blackboard and it was all just the way school was supposed to be set up. We found some school desks and stuff, and then kind of just got a little bit more lax, and pretty soon we're doing it at the kitchen table. And I really liked it because we kind of had a little rule at our place, and we ordered our books in summer, when normally they got to the house about July.
Wow, early. So now, just real quick, when you say us, how many is us?
Six
Okay.
kids.
And where do you fit in the mix?
I'm the oldest. Mom and Dad said, you got to be, you got to act right because you're the example. And I said, you mean the experiment?
Okay, so there's 6 of you homeschooling. All right.
We'd get the books in July, and Mom and Dad would go through the curriculum, and they'd say, well, there's so many days in the school year. The public schools kids are in there, and so this is how many days they're normally in school, and this is how many. And so they kind of mark out kind of weekly, need to be on this page by whatever.
All right. Yep.
And so then they just turned us loose with them, and you could peruse them a little bit and go down there and just kind of. So a lot of times, Nebraska is hot in the summer and cold in the winter. So it's
much like here.
It'd be hot outside. We'd go inside where it was a little air conditioned. We'd just, fiddle around with it. You had to do the schoolwork eventually. So, and it was new. So you might as well check it out. Normally by the time school started in September, we were a month into it, a month ahead.
Right.
The rule is that if you didn't want to go to school that day, maybe your buddies called you next door. We had a big kind of a homeschool group there. I was with, those guys on ranches, and they'd say, hey, we're going to go hunting today. They'd call me, hey, Dad's taking us hunting. Do you want to go? And I'd, ask Mom, and she'd say, well, bring your books. And I'd bring the books. And as long as you were, you weren't behind, hey, do whatever you want. And then if you got behind, you got up when Dad got up at like 6:30, and you sat at the kitchen table
Until you caught up.
Yeah, until he caught up. I mean, it wasn't like got out at 3:30. No, it was you can put your books away and we'll have supper, and then you can get them back out until you go to bed. So it was a big incentive to stay caught up because you got freedom. You know,
Right,
it's like,
right.
yeah. So that's what we did. And then I actually graduated about 16. By that time, normally, generally, we were a year or two ahead of Iowa Basic Standard Skills Test that Mom wanted to make sure we were keeping up with. And then I started going to. My dad was worked for a hospital in the maintenance department, and so they got a new welder for the maintenance department, and he wanted to learn how to use it. So he went to school, and while he was at school, he said, "How old do you have to be?" And they said, I guess 16. And so he said, "Well, my boy's 16. Could he come with me, and that way we can just carpool together?" And they said, "Yeah, that's fine." So evening classes, vocational classes, I went with him for a little while, and then after about it was a couple 3 months, he thought, he's learned enough to use that welder. And then so he quit going to school, and then I switched to credit for a degree. So actually I graduated from college when I was 18 with my degree.
Nice.
Yeah. So it kind of got a little jump on it just because I was able to do that. But then went out and worked construction, and my hobby was horses.
Whenever you say went out and worked construction, did you stay in Nebraska or did you?
Yeah. Well, I stayed in Nebraska for the most part, especially right at the beginning. Liked horses and started doing a few horse things here and there. And then pretty soon what happens is, you kind of like it. I like being good at whatever I'm going to do. So, you try to get better at it. And pretty soon it was, well, and I didn't have a horse for a while. I'd ride somebody else's. They'd say, "Yeah, I got extra horse. If you want to ride out on the trail ride or we're going here." And so I would ride their horse. And of course I tried to make it better. And I learned from whoever would teach me. Most of it was less than ideal information because you know how free information is. It's worth exactly what you pay for it.
Right. There's some of that on the internet.
Yeah. Well, yeah. We used to think that the distribution of information was the problem. We have found out that is not correct.
That is not correct. Right.
The people would say, "Hey, you've made that horse better. Would you mind riding my horse a little bit?" And so pretty soon they were paying you to ride their horse, and it just got a little bit better. And I started going to some clinics, and then when I met Buck Brannaman and went to a couple of his clinics, and I was like, "Oh my goodness, there's a big wide open world out there." So I started trying to just improve in my horsemanship. And then
were you still working as a welder full time?
Yes. Yep. Yeah. I was a full-time steam fitter there. And about that time, I started getting a little bit better and started learning some stuff. The thing with construction work is it's kind of seasonal a little bit, and you're always working yourself out of a job. It's not like you're as soon as this job's finished up, you're laid off for a while. So I would do horse training in the evenings and on weekends. And so after work, I would stop by a barn. And
so you were a welder that got to go to a job and come home to your home.
Yeah.
All right. Nice.
Yeah. Most of the construction stuff I did was right around Omaha area, Lincoln, Omaha.
Are you married?
Used to be.
Okay.
Not anymore.
Do you have kids?
Nope.
And you're not welding for a living now, right?
No, it's more of keeps me busy and a little bit of, I can make a few bits and spurs and stuff like that and build some stuff, do a few repairs, help some guys on some fence stuff,
But you mainly train for a living.
Yeah.
Okay. So tell us about that.
Yeah. I just got better and better at horse training. And eventually I told the guys, I can't afford to come to work anymore. I just got to train horses. So.
And how old were you when you did this?
Oh man, it must have been close to 25, 30.
Okay.
Right in there is when I said,
you've been able to make a living on horses for the last 20 years.
Yep.
How cool is that?
It's been pretty good. Like I say, I've had a really blessed life. I thank God every day for just waking up and be able to do what I get to do. And even before, I never had a job that I didn't like.
So you enjoyed welding?
Yeah, welding was fun. Construction. I worked on a bunch of nuclear plants and some chip plants and refineries and some, we had a big 999 ring crane. I don't know if you've seen the big cranes with a ring around the outside that they have outriggers that run around on them. And we were lifting up some big stuff, and it's cool to just be on a big site, welding up some pipe you can walk through, and it's really cool.
I've always thought of welding to be like the loneliest job. You're in your little cave, you put your hood down, and there you are.
It is a little bit, but normally you got your fitter or your helper, whoever's helping you fit the pipe up. So
you end up with somebody talking to anyway.
And you're, with a bunch of other guys in the fab shop or out on the construction site doing some stuff. So it's
Pretty social.
yeah, pretty social.
All right. Where do you live now?
So now I live in Texas. I did a competition in 2008 was the Mustang Makeover, and I won that one. And when I won that one, it was my first real trip out. I had gone and worked in several different states, construction, and it was nice because, you can go work construction for a big shutdown or something. It'll be, 610s or 712s or something like that. And you'll kind of
Make some serious money.
Yeah, making some money. And then you'll get laid off, and I would go to the nearest ranch and hire on to be a kind of a cowboy day worker kind of thing for a month or two. And so it allowed me to go to everywhere from North Dakota to, Wyoming, Colorado, and that kind of stuff. And I could work there for a little while. And of course, you have a little bit of money to play with, and you'd buy a few saddles or bits or whatever and just trade back and forth and learn from cowboys that were really doing it for a living. And so there's a little bit of a disconnect between the clinician horsemanship and actual working.
Right. Yeah.
I had the same thing that happened when I was welding. You're in school and you learn how to weld, and they're like, well, when you're welding your plate up, as you weld it, it's going to suck together as it cools. So you make your bottom piece exactly the distance of gap you need. And at the other end of the plate, you make it a little bit wider, maybe a 16th or something or 32nd wider at that end, because it's going to shrink as you weld up the plate. Well, they don't let you do that when you're in the field. The fitter goes, it's fit up. Like, if you can't weld it, we'll find somebody that will. It's like great in theory.
Right.
Yeah, ideally you would like that. But, sometimes the real world situation isn't like that. And so the same thing with horses, you kind of found out the clinician would be, oh, just do a little this. And that was, yes, in an ideal world, yeah, we'll take another 3 months to get that thing so he doesn't buck with the saddle. And sometimes it was like, hey, look, we got to go, work cows tomorrow afternoon. So
let's fix it now.
Yeah. Here's the deal. And, warm your horse up. But in 10 minutes, we're leaving and we're going to go gather those cows. Whatever you got going on, you might want to get ready because we're going to open the gate here in a minute, where real world experience met the theory. So I really liked doing both, having on both sides of it so you can kind of temper both sides.
The Mustang Makeover, were you living in Texas then, or were you still?
No, I was still in Nebraska. But when I went down there and won that, then, of course, you meet some people and they were like, hey, we've got some colts to start if you would like to start some colts, because they thought, hey, well, you did a pretty good job here. And when I found out that there was horses to ride in Texas during the winter, I was like, I will be there. Like, let me know. So that started my deal where I would go to Texas or somewhere south for 3 or 4 months in the winter. And then I would come to Nebraska for the summer.
So you're snowbirding like an old retired dentist from New York City, huh?
And I had a lot of clients in Nebraska and customers and stuff like that. So I'd go back there the summer, which was great. And then, it's tough to ride a bunch of horses in the winter in Nebraska. It's cold and wet and snowy.
So where are you at in Texas?
Whitesboro, which is north of Dallas, about an hour.
And do you have a property?
Yeah, well, I lease a barn over there, and I'm only there about 3 or 4 months of the year. So
I saw a video of your intern riding a bucking horse.
Yeah, a little pony.
She looked like she just comfortable as could be.
Oh yeah, she got a little puckered up. But the girl that I have now is a girl from Tennessee, Lily Dodge. She's a good little rider and really trying to work on her horsemanship and get better at stuff. And like I say, she's pretty talented little rider. She does a lot of English stuff. So she's got a Mustang for the deal in Vegas, and
for the Mustang Makeover.
Yeah, they've got a little competition in Vegas this summer, and then they've got a few weeks later they've got one in Kentucky that's an English one. The Western one is in Vegas. Western horses.
She's got that horse now.
Yep.
How's it coming along?
Good. Put slide plates on it. I guess a month ago, and it's leaving 4 or 5 foot little track.
So when you say we, did you put them on?
Actually, I had the farrier there. I actually shod mine when hers was getting slide plates on. There's a farrier there that's a lot better than me, so I try not to shoe horses if there's somebody better at shoeing than I am.
So who do you use in Whitesboro?
No, I know his last name is Mac. He shoes at the barn next door, and we were over there, and he was over there throwing some shoes on, and I said, hey,
Mac.
Yeah, if you want to throw these on there, that'd be great. So
have you had a lot of interns?
Quite a few. Yeah, probably 12.
Oh,
15.
wow. All right. In the summer, you're running a similar deal, just in the warmth of Nebraska?
Now what I do is I leave Texas sometime when it starts getting warm. I tell people the devil invades Texas somewhere around May, and I like not to be there when that happens. So I leave and I just kind of start following the temperature, and I just go up north and I kind of go up through Nebraska and then over to Colorado and then up through Wyoming, and then I get to Montana about July. I normally am in Montana about 2 or 3 weeks, and then over to North Dakota and then across to Wisconsin and then, Michigan. And
Are you doing clinics?
Yeah.
Okay. And so do you have a pretty good circuit then?
yeah, fairly big circuit. So then I get back to Texas sometime in September, October.
Okay. And so we're here at Chad Kelly's in Monette, Missouri in April. And what finds you here today?
So I was over I went to Chicago I went to Tennessee for a clinic. We started a bunch of Mustangs for a lady. She has a big adoption facility there, and there was a bunch of people picking up for some competitions. And so I put on a little gentleng clinic, kind of helping them get started and stuff like that. That first week is sometimes the most trying for particularly the people that haven't done a lot of it, And so I've got a saddle horse that if they need to get a rope on one, or if you need to kind of have a little bit of emotional support for that horse, I use my saddle horse for that. And so we did that for a week. And then I went to Chicago, or just outside of Chicago, there's a place called Woodstock. There's a lady named Jody Funk that put on a clinic for me. And it was a really fun clinic for the next week. And then I went to a little place. It's called Syracuse, Indiana. It's just outside of South Bend. Did a clinic there. And then now I'm heading home, and I hadn't seen Chad for a while. And I was like, man, I'm going to stop by. And then I get here, and then he said, yeah, we're doing a horse shoeing school tomorrow. And I said, well, by golly,
I'll watch that, huh?
I got to watch this. And like I say, I'm always looking to gain information. So get a little bit better about, learning every part of the horse, whether it's teeth work or doing the shoeing. And so it's great to just gain information.
Now, have you rodeoed?
No, I never did. I rode a few saddle broncs, and I figured out very quickly that if you weren't in the top 3, you didn't get paid.
Right.
And if you were riding somebody's backyard bronc and it bucked you off, they still paid you your fee. And so I said, this is way better because you get paid whether you get bucked off or not. I'll come out and ride your horse for $40 or $50 or whatever it was. They pay me whether you get bucked off or not. And the other one, you had to be in the top 3 to get paid. So
would you say your specialty is starting colts or finishing horses or teaching people?
Now it's more education, teaching people.
For the people.
Yeah.
Okay.
Back in the day, a few years ago, it was more colt starting. I probably started about 300 a year. And
300 a year?
Yeah. I started colts for a bunch of ranches. And then being in Texas, I was along that Whitesboro 377 corridor where they call it Rainer's Row.
Yeah.
So there was a bunch of Rainers there, and I'd go there and start. You'd go to Casey Hinton's and Pete Kyle. I stayed at Pete Kyle's for quite a while. He's a really good mentor to me and opened a lot of doors. It was pretty cool just hanging out with those guys. I learned a lot about reining and stuff. And so I'd go to their places, and.
Now, do you compete in reining?
No, I have before. To be the best or to compete at a pretty good level, you have to kind of focus on that. And I'm to either ADD or eclectic or something to put that much effort into. I like reining. And so I do like the stock horse stuff and the shot shows and, the ranch horse versatility stuff. I like that because you could be pretty decent at the reining and then there's a little roping, there's a little cow work, there's a little trail, there's a
lot of variety.
Yes. And so I like being pretty good at a lot of different things rather than the best in the world at one thing. So
jack of all trades.
Yep. That's it. Yep.
My father-in-law's like that. And, I'm kind of the opposite. I got a couple things I can do and a whole ton of things I can't do, nothing else.
Some people and thank goodness for the people that just take one thing and become the best they can at it, because that's where we get our growth. There's people that are, whether it's electronics or computer coding or whatever they're making, that's the only thing they do, but they're so good at they're leading the whole industry.
Yep.
And then there's other people that are like, we're a little ADD. We're just, we try something and go, oh, that's good enough for now. I want to try something else. I'm bored of that. So
did you ever go to college and get like an academic degree?
No.
Are you a reader?
Yes, I love reading.
So what do you like to read?
When I was, I'll tell a little funny story about being homeschooled. So I use this illustration in my clinics a lot. I tell people, look, we care if our horse knows the material, not if he passes the test, And so
Okay. Yeah.
when I was growing up, we did the Iowa Basic Tender Skills Test because Mom wanted to make sure we were at least holding the line as far as everybody else and keeping up with the Joneses. And my spelling wasn't very good. I'm still not a very good speller. Thank goodness for autocorrect on the phone. But I could tell if a word was spelled correctly or incorrectly because I read a lot, so I could see the word. And if you showed me 4 words, I could tell you that none of those words were spelled correctly. I couldn't tell you how to spell any of them, but I could tell you, though, that wasn't it. My sister, on the other hand, she wasn't quite as good of that deal, but she could spell a lot better than me. So I beat her every year in the test. But my mom said, yes, you did, but you will still work on your spelling because she outspells you every day. So,
So she'd beat you at the spelling bee, but when it come to guessing the right word,
yes, yeah, I would look at I'd say, well, and it was with those guessing ones, it was, they had 4 answers.
A, B, C, or D.
Yeah, and it was like, which one is spelled incorrectly or which one's spelled correctly, and there was a none of the above or all of the above, and I would rock those tests. But if you said, hey, how do you spell this word? I'd have to scribble it out. No, that doesn't quite look right. Maybe the E and the I or maybe it's 2 L's. And then I would write it down about 7 times. And I go, oh, yep, that one's it. That one's it right there. So that was me.
Well, getting back to the books, like what do you like to read?
Journals, just information. I'm a kind of a little bit of an information hound. Like I just like reading. And I listen to a lot of podcasts now. I mean, thank goodness for podcasts. I listen to Cow Horse Full Contact is a pretty fun one. Jordan Peterson. I like Jordan Peterson. A lot of good information.
Have you read his books?
Oh yeah. Yeah. I'm
pretty
a
deep,
fan. Yeah. Oh my goodness. I go, man, that's pretty cool. A lot of stuff like that, when I go to, read books about little science, technology stuff.
Not science fiction. You're not reading novels.
No, not novels for me. It's got to be historical stuff. I like history. History That Doesn't Suck is a really good podcast. If you haven't listened to that one, it's a pretty cool.
Have you heard Malcolm Gladwell's Revisionist History?
Oh, yes. I've listened to a couple of them.
And then also another pretty good one is Mike Rose.
Yeah.
The way I heard it.
The way I heard it. Yeah. In fact, I started listening to him. I haven't decided whether I like the earlier ones or the later ones.
I like the earlier ones. Yeah, they were short and they really told some cool stories.
Well, I grew up listening to Paul Harvey's. Yeah. The
rest of the story.
The rest of the story. And so when he started that, of course, it was kind of a throwback to that one. And so I really like it. It's kind of where is he kind of trying to lead me? And isn't that? And so it was a little bit of a mystery. And I like that. But I also like the conversation ones. Those are super cool. So yeah, I listen to a lot of those. But yeah, I like information. I just like learning.
Well, you're going to have to find a final approach with Chris Gregory and see what you think.
Yeah. Oh, definitely. I listen to Finding the Feel. There's a Finding the Feel podcast. She does a really good job. But yeah, there's several podcasts I kind of just go through, especially when I'm riding. It was funny. My intern was before Lily. I had a gal. She was from South Africa, and I'm got my headset on. I'm riding around, and she's talking to me, and I had to stop it. And what? She said, "What do you listen to?" And I said, "Oh, I told her what I was listening to." And she goes, "Oh," and she's kind of perplexed. And she goes, "How do you listen to a podcast and ride at the same time?" And I said, what do you mean? She goes, "Well, how do you pay attention to the horse and listen to the podcast at the same time?" And I was like, it didn't occur to me for a minute. And then I thought, And I said, well, I've done it so many times, I don't have to think.
There's a lot to that. We have a student in class and we had a contest and he got second. And then the following week we had a similar contest and he wasn't even in the running. And he listens to audiobooks. And he said, what I figured out is that I can't focus on a book and shoe build at the same time. If he has a book on, he can't build the shoes.
Yeah.
Now, once you built 1,000 shoes or rode 1,000 colts, it's not the same.
Yeah, you don't have to think about it anymore. It's happens second nature.
Yeah, but a student really, in the beginning stages, focus is important.
Paramount.
Yeah, very much so. Where do you see our horse industry going? Do you think it's going to continue to stay with us and stay strong?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think it's going to stay fairly strong. There's parts of the horse industry that I think are heading for extinction. But
oh, yeah, like what?
The walking horse, especially the big lick stuff, I mean, there's less and less and less people interested in it. And of course, some of the criticism of it has been deserved, and then others maybe not so much.
Like everything.
Yeah, like everything. That part I can see that thing growing smaller and smaller and smaller. I start some colts for some Arabs and they were trying to figure out how to revive that breed a little bit, just, because most of the shows have gotten a little bit smaller and a little bit smaller. And so they're trying to work on building that back up. And I don't know enough about that industry to know how that's going, but they were like, hey, we need to get more people showing and we need to get more people. And it was kind of tailored a little bit like the walking horse. It was a lot of people with some money and they just showed up on Saturday morning and they're
on game day and the trainer got ready. And
they climb on and go to their class and then go have coffee or whatever. I really liked I was doing the ranch horse versatility kind of before it was cool. There was a guy that I was working with in Nebraska and named Sherman Tegmeyer, and he got a barn that he was managing, and I wanted to kind of start some, I was doing the ranch horse thing and I wanted to kind of do some of it at the barn, and he was like, okay, and he was doing the reining thing, and we tried to get it going, and it did go okay. I've sponsored some shows and we had some shows there, and it was a good time. We had a good time. And then about it was 5 or 6 years ago, I'm over there, and of course the ranch riding they've got it as part of the reining right before the reining, and he had like a bunch of horses and he qualified 2 of them for the world. And
wow, nice.
Yeah. And I said, hey, what about that? And he said, you were just about 5 years ahead of your time. And I laughed. And so, yeah, I think that's an industry or an example of somebody that said, hey, this is what we want to do, and we're going to build a show. There was a few years ago where, I had won several ranch horse versatility competitions, and you could take any decent ranch horse, and if you kind of knew a little bit about showing and you could polish your act up a little bit, you could go out there and do really well. Not anymore. Like, you better have a dang good horse and be good at it, because you are just not going to walk in there and
professionals have arrived. Huh?
Yes. What happened is we built an industry that said, hey, you can come show in 5 classes for $100. And they were like, hey, and you don't have to have hoof polish, and you can just kind of just use your horse. And I remember there was times when I'd win the overall and never win a class. I'd be second or third, but you were second, third, and everything. And the reiners would show up, and there'd be 2 or 3 reiners there, and they came to school, of course. But even if they picked up with 2 hands or schooled their horse, there'd be 1 or 2 that would get through the pattern, and their horse would be good, and they'd never have to. And so you'd place third, and then the cow horse guys would show up, and they'd do the cow, and you'd be third, because you're not going to beat those guys. And
right.
Then the pleasure guy would show up with his ranch riding horse, and he would beat you, and there'd be a couple of them, and you'd get third. And the trail guys, the same thing. The trail guys would show up, and you'd be third, but you'd win the overall, because that trail guy, the 2 guys that beat you in trail, they didn't even enter the cow class, because
it's not their game.
Yeah. And so you could go in there and be third.
That's a jack of all trade winning.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm really encouraged by watching those.
Do you still do contests?
Yeah, I do. I was talking to a buddy of mine, his name's Craig Moore. I was saying, the problem with going to clinics is your horse is twice as good as any horse there when you show up. You kind of get puffed up a little bit. You're like, oh man, my horse is pretty good. And then you go home. The thing I like about my life at the moment is I spend most of the summer on the road, and I get to do a bunch of clinics, and I'll do 2 or 3 a month. And then the rest of the time I get to hang out with whoever I want to, so you'll be going through Colorado, and I've got a couple guys in Colorado and a couple guys in Wyoming, and, just everywhere. Ohio, you go through Ohio, and there's a bunch of guys. And so you'll stop by and hang out with a reiner for 4 or 5 days. And then you're like, yeah, my horse isn't nearly as good as I thought he was, because you're watching the best in that industry. And then you go to a cow horse guy, and you're like, man, my horse could get way better. And then the problem is then you go to the clinic, and your horse is twice as good as anybody. And so it's a good balancing act. I think if we put ourselves in a silo or surround ourselves by an echo chamber, when we're always around people that are not as good as us, we get puffed up, and we're like, oh, I don't have to work on my horse anymore. And then
That happens in farriery where you get isolated. You have, 100 customers and 200 horses that are all sound and doing good, and everybody tells you how wonderful you are.
Yeah.
And a lot of those customers, to them, you are the greatest
The
horse
best,
shoe that
yeah.
ever lived. And then you go out and you go to a contest and you see somebody out there that's really
Yeah.
top of their game. Yes, sir. Yep. What do you like to do training wise? Do you like to start colts? Do you like to finish colts?
Personally, I like ranch roping.
Okay.
And I like the bridle horse stuff. I like the vaquero kind of bridle horse, spade bit kind of deal. That's where I'm working on getting my horses to, and kind of see if I can develop that, and then working on myself now, just getting where I can do the same job I'm doing in either less time or with less pressure or with, some figuring out how to do it a little bit better.
Do you like starting colts or?
I do. I like it. I'm just getting, when you're 50 and you're still climbing on young colts, you should probably start. And that's why I've phased a little bit of that out. Like I probably do 100 a year now, but
you still do that many though.
Yeah.
So what does it cost somebody to get a horse trained by Mark Lyons?
So right now my current rate is, depending on if I'm home or if I'm on the road, between 500 a week or 600 a week. 2,000, 2,500, something like that.
Do you take the horse with you on the road then?
Yes, I do take sometimes one, sometimes two client horses on the road with me. And I like to have a horse that's a little bit more green, not as quite as finished. Normally a lot of times we'll have the morning session will be a more basic horsemanship, and then the afternoon session will be a little bit more advanced, or vice versa. And I like to have, it doesn't do the people any good if you say, hey, how do you step your horse's hip over? Oh, you just open your outside leg and look this way. And the horse does it. Their horse doesn't do that.
Right.
And so if you have a horse that's like, hey, if he doesn't do that, then you pick up his nose and you push on him with your leg.
And you have a horse, you can show that to them going through the motions. Well, that's pretty cool. You're showing me some of your stuff. How do people find you on YouTube and Facebook? And
yeah, so YouTube is Lyonshare.
Very clever.
Yeah, very clever.
And Lions with a Y.
Yes, Lyon. I think it's apostrophe S, share. And then on Facebook, there's Lyon Horses or Mark Lyon.
Mark Lyon. All right. Not plural then.
Lyons is the John Lyons, and of course Josh and his daughter and those guys, Brandy and yeah. In fact, he bought the horse that I won the makeover with.
Oh, really? So he didn't have to change the horse's last name then.
Well, it was kind of just a cool deal. One with that horse, and then he was actually flying home, and they auctioned all the horses at the end. And that horse was really a cool horse. I named him Christian.
Nice.
His first name was Vegas because he was from Vegas, and about halfway, it was a couple 3 weeks into the deal, he just turned the corner and
he was saved.
Yeah, he got converted, and so that's why I called him Christian. He just was like turned the corner, was really wanting to do whatever you want to do. And so anyway, John bought him, and then when I found out, I was like, oh, that's cool. Patty Colbert was running the Mustang Heritage Foundation at the time, and so I asked her, I said, well, do I take him home? Is he got a shipper? And she said, well, competition was in Texas. And she said, well, Nebraska's closer to Colorado than here. So take him home. And then if he needs to ship him, he will. And so then I talked to his lady secretary the next week or whatever. And he said, I don't know why I bought that horse. I have no idea. And so he said, would you mind keeping him for a little while? And I said, I will keep him. No charge, as long as you want me to. So I rode him for a little while, and then actually we worked out a deal where I could keep him. I did some work for the Mustang Heritage Foundation, and we worked out a little trade. So
you still have him?
I kept him for another 2 or 3 years, and then Madeline Pickens bought him. She had a horse, Saving America's Mustangs deal, and she was looking for a horse that she could go that would be a good representative, a good, I don't know if mascot's the right word, but ambassador maybe.
Okay.
And so she bought him, and yeah, he got to go. And I'd rode him in several parades that she kind of sponsored, and we did some stuff for that. We got to ride in the Rose Bowl parade.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, that was kind of a cool deal. Went to Washington, D.C., rode on the mall down there in front of the Capitol and did a deal down there with him. And yeah, he was
all right, huh?
He was good. In fact, tell a little funny story. We did a deal at the Rose Bowl parade, and the day before or 2 days before, they have all the horse entries can go to this little Equifest kind of deal, and you can demonstrate your horses, and they have a 3 or 4 minutes, in the arena doing your little act or whatever you want to do. So we had the bunch of Mustangs, and Pete Kyle had a bunch of them that Madeline Pickens had bought, and so we went down there and did a deal. And so when we first go in, they kind of went to grand entry, and so they had a bunch of horses coming in. And of course, we ran in, came down, and then we serpentined down the middle of the arena. They had some girls on horses with flags, and we serpentined down them. Well, the Mustangs were all used to carrying flags, so we're all carrying flags, and Pete Kyle was actually in the lead with the American flag, and he was riding Christian.
So he was riding your horse.
Yeah, he was riding my horse. He had another horse that was named America, and it was a paint, and it occasionally bucked.
I see.
Yeah, it occasionally would kind of hump up a little bit. So
God bless America. I
got to ride that one, and so yeah. So anyway, he said you can ride that one.
How did this work out? Did he talk you into this, or did you guys?
He opened a lot of doors for me, and I thought, man, whatever Pete said, I'll whatever you want, buddy. I'm good. Like
You're his huckleberry, huh?
He a little bit like a second dad. He helped me through some stuff, and like I say, he was a really good friend to me, and he was an awesome guy. So anyway, I was like, hey, I'll ride that paint thing, and so I rode him. We're going down the deal, and we're coming back through our serpentines, heading back down, and then of course at the end we line up, and by the time you got all the horses in there, they could line up side by side all the way around the arena, all facing the end. I mean, it was, when you're going back and forth.
Did America behave?
He did. He was good. He was fine. But there was a few horses that were less than ideally broke for that deal. And they had a bunch of people that were impersonating Roy Rogers. And so they had Palominos, and they had the big black saddles with the diamond, spots on them, and they had the big. And so anyway, there was a guy, and of course it's on TV, it's on RFD TV, and of course they're taping the whole thing. And we came around there, and there was a lady that had come in, and like I say, half of the horses were in the arena by now. By the time we got to the second curve, there was a lady who had lost her hat, and it was laying kind of face up about 3 foot to the inside of the rail, about a third of the way in, Anyway, one of these Roy Rogers guys, he was 60, 65, and he had a big Palomino thing, and he came in there. Well, that horse crow hopped and kind of jumped over the hat, and he fell off, and this thing grabbed another gear and was like gone. Like this thing,
And there's probably 200 horses in there?
Yeah. And Pete is in the front with carrying the American flag, and he's riding my horse. And my horse has done cow horse. He's started colts. I mean, he's whatever you want him to do. And Pete says, I think I should catch that horse before he piles into and of course, we don't want to interrupt the TV, and, it's a mess. So he says, see that horse? You get that one. And Christian steps up there and cow horses this thing into the fence. And I mean.
And did he lose the flag?
No, he kept the flag. He had the flag in one, Romel's. Mine was riding in a bridle and a pretty nice little spade bit there. He reached down. He had the Romel's and the flag in one hand. And I mean, you could ride him without a bridle too. I mean, he was pretty good, but he reaches down there and catches that horse's rein and stops him.
Oh, man.
Of course, a couple of ground crew guys came in, and they got the guy that was on the ground, helped him out, and got the horse out. And then by this time, we have finished the other 2 or 3 little serpentines that we're doing, and we're coming around. And so now he's in the front again, right? And so he turns and trots down to the end, and faces it. Of course, then all the flags are around there, and it was good. And I was like, hey, good job.
Yeah. Well, that's awesome. That's very cool. Well, Mark, I tell you what, it's been a real pleasure. Is there anything you'd like to tell America that we haven't talked about?
Enjoy your horse, and never quit trying to gain more information. Don't think, hey, I'm satisfied with where I'm at. There's always, something that we can get a little bit better at, whether that's training practices, whether it's learning more about a horse's foot and how it behaves, and the best thing we can do to live a more happy life a little bit longer. So yeah, just about that. Yeah, I guess we're all trying to get to the same place. I can tell you, when I was working on kind of doing some rebranding, I was trying to find a I forget what they say, catchphrase or logo. And I came up with my little catchphrases: become the person your horse deserves. Kind of like,
There
we
you
all
go.
wish we were the person our horse thinks we are, kind of deal. And so that's kind of my deal, is like, become the person your horse deserves. And that's just being better. We all want to be better people for our kids, for our wives, for our...
Did America and Christian both deserve the same person?
Yes.
They did.
I think every animal we encounter deserves the best we can be. And,
Okay.
it's just like, sometimes our kids deserve the best parent we can be, although that parent isn't going to be the same parent to both kids. My parents treated my sister differently than they treated me because we're both different. And my brothers,
Did they treat them better?
No, actually, well, my youngest brother may have gotten a little bit of I keep telling him, I said, you guys owe me, because I got them all trained. I got them kind of...
You plowed the field.
Yeah, plowed the field. My mom and dad, when I grew up, I remember I was 25 or something, and my mom and dad, we made a lot of mistakes with you, and we apologize for anything. I said, Mom, and like, hey, yeah, I thought you guys did a great job. Like, I can tell you, I did not get near the spankings I probably deserved. So you guys, yeah. And I tried to be the best horse trainer with my first horse, and I'm way better now than I was then. And luckily, he forgave a lot of my miscomings and shortcomings. And hopefully, in the next horse I get, I will be better than the horse trainer I am now. And in 10 years, I'll be better than so I'm always just trying to be better. And, as long as we're attempting or trying to get to be the person that our horse deserves, or the person that the rest of us deserve,
Yeah. Well, sir, I thank you very, very much for your time. And I hope you have very blessed travels. And guys, if you have a chance, check out Mark Lyon and Lyonshare. And thank you very much, sir. That's been an awesome, awesome time.
Oh, thanks. Thanks for the opportunity.
Yeah, awesome. CJW Pinot Ranch. Once Jacqueline found out the truth about our American meat supply, she was on a mission to make sure her family was fed as good as was humanly possible. That meant raising animals that were not eating GMO grain or living in concentrated farming conditions. Not cheap or easy, but so worth it. It became the family business to provide American families with the highest quality meats raised in the way that God intended. Regenerative beef, pork, and chicken that will make you feel better than you have in a long time. If you spend a week eating better and then decide to go ahead and have that fast food meal, your body will instant message you in disagreement. Try CJW Pinot's nourishing meat for thriving families. Their nationwide shipping makes it easy.